All right. I don't know about you, but I'm happy that's over. That was a lot. That was a lot. That's one of those nights where you don't know how it's going to hit you until it happens. And there was definitely a part of me that was dreading this. I am obviously someone who has had some conflicted emotions over the trade and the players involved in the trade and how I am dealing with that myself, which is to mostly try to immediately move on and not dwell on the past and just look forward to the future. Well, tonight, the past came back and it was very strange. It was very strange and a little bit surreal. And I mean, as far as the game went, pretty scary for a half of basketball when you're looking at these two kids. They're still kids. That's the crazy part, right? They've been here forever and they're still kids who came up in your organization, who went from rookies to like kind of spunky role players to stars in their own respect. RJ has had moments as a star, quickly became a star here. And now they don't have their own team because Scotty Barnes, although he didn't show it tonight, like this is Scotty Barnes' team. But I think that was the thing that I was not prepared for, even though I've been watching a decent amount of Raptors games since the trade, because to see, because since RJ got here and since Quickly got here, they've always been lower on the pecking order, with the possible exception of the half a season or 3.5 months where RJ was kind of co-number one with Randall, but there were no stakes because the team sucked. So like to see them be the headliners, like, oh, wait a minute. So we're playing against a team and like they're the initiators. They're the engines. Like they're the ones that are making it go for that other team. They're the ones we have to worry about slowing down. All right, well, how are we going to slow them down? And like, we know their strengths, we know their weaknesses, and it kind of all came to a head as that game got underway. And it was, I got to admit, it was far more emotional than I thought it was going to be. Thrilled they got the Knicks obviously got the win. Happy it did not come down to the end. I think I don't know what people wanted to see in this game, but I'm happy that it's over. Let me just get that out of the way first. A lot of different ways that we could go to start off this post game, obviously because of who we played and what they did and all of that. There's only one place to start, though, and it's the same place I started 2 nights ago, and it's the same place that I've started a lot of post games since he got here. And it has been said by me and by others that Emmanuel Quickly's ticket out of town was essentially punched the day that they signed Jalen Brunson. And I think when you say it like that, it comes off as a knock on Emmanuel Quickly, because it's like, well, what, why should Brunson's arrival mean that Quickly has to go? And I think even though Quickly didn't have his best game tonight, certainly, although my God, some of his passing, and he said it. I've mentioned this. He said it the day he arrived in Toronto, or his first press conference in Toronto, that he wanted to work more on his passing. He was more of a score first guy here in New York, and now he's a pure point guard for this team. And like, man, if his passing keeps progressing, because the rest of the offense is gonna be fine. He is going to be. I mean, I'm not saying anything people haven't heard before. Is absolutely an all-star upside with him. He is. Is he going to top out as a top 15 point guard in the league? Is he going to top? I mean, could he get to be in a top 10 point guard in the league? Like, that's the level of player we're talking about with Emmanuel Quickly. He's that good. He's that talented. He works that hard. There are questions about his game. He's not a perfect player, but he is absolutely a starting point guard for a good team if you put the right pieces around him. And obviously, this Raptors team he's playing on now is kind of decimated especially after the Pascal Siakam trade. They frankly weren't very good to begin with. So like this is not where we're going to see that, but he is awesome. And that's the key here is that's what he is. He's a starting NBA point guard. And the day they signed Jalen Brunson, his fate as far as being that, was sealed in New York. So then it was always a matter of like, all right, well, what are you going to do about it? And we know what they did about it. We don't have to relive old history. And like, there will always be people who will maintain, and I can't say that those people are definitely wrong, that there was a path for him to start alongside Brunson as a starting 2 guard moving forward on this team. And that's your big 3, right? Brunson, IQ, Randall. Here's the thing of it though, right? If that's your big 3, you need, forget about center. You need something special there to tie it all together on the defensive end at the 3. And aren't many of those guys out there. And the irony in the fact that they needed to trade quickly to get that guy, I think is always going to be the thing that stays with me about this trade. And you saw on a night when, OG Anunoby didn't score a lot of points tonight. He'll have moments on offense where like it's like, man, RJ might have got a better shot at the rim than whatever OG just got. He's not as smooth with the ball. I thought Esparahini did a fantastic job talking to Andrew on the pregame pod today about how like, we're seeing the bumps and things in OG's game. It doesn't matter because what he brings and the way it ties everything else together with what the Knicks are trying to do and where they're trying to go and the necessity of having that piece on both ends of the floor, as obviously he's a corner shooter, as a kind of he's not quite a connector, right? Like Josh Hart's more a connector, but like what he is on offense, it's unique in its own right. And then, defensively, I don't need to talk about OG Anunoby's defense. And it is now allowing quickly to sail and reach the heights that he was never going to reach here. So like, it's not even enough to say that this trade was a win-win. This was, for all parties involved, including RJ Barrett. Now, RJ started out great, couldn't quite bring it home. Did we see some of the faults that held RJ Barrett back when he was in New York come to a head over the course of the rest of this game? Sure. I thought he still did a lot of really nice things, and I think the biggest takeaway for me with RJ is something that people said so many times over the years, which is that there is and you would hear it, whether you say it or you hear it, you'd be like, well, that doesn't add up. That's not how basketball works. And the thing is, he's better when he's a focal point of the offense. When you ask him to be number 3, it doesn't work as well. You see it. You see it when he has a chance to take command. He is better in that role than when he has to play number 3 or lower down the line. And kudos to Toronto, who's using him wonderfully. Again, Esparahini talked about this on the pregame pod. Getting him downhill before he gets the ball, I think, is a big key. Like, you want to, obviously, it was the thing that almost cost the Knicks this game, it seemed like, or it was going to cost the Knicks this game for about 2.5 quarters. Getting him out in transition at every possible opportunity. Don't make him have to make the difficult plays. I think the challenge for him is going to come when, okay, so he's better with the ball in his hands a lot. Well, how high is your ceiling as a team if RJ Barrett has the ball in his hands a lot? And I think that was always the issue here. Whereas they went out and got a guy to fill his role where that is not an issue, because the value that OG Anunoby gives you when he, has the ball, even though it's a lot less, he doesn't need it to be incredibly valuable, to be, arguably the most valuable role player in the league. So it really did work out great for everybody. Obviously, the final book on this trade will not be written probably for years. We'll see how high Emmanuel Quickley's ceiling gets. We'll see how high RJ Barrett's ceiling gets. And most importantly, for our purposes, we'll see how high the Knicks ceiling gets. And that brings me back to the guy that I started talking about, which is Jalen Brunson. who is an absolute, no doubt about it, superstar. Could have had 40 again tonight, except he passed to Randall at the end there for a three before he was about to come out of the game. Shows you what Jalen Brunson does and does not care about. Does not care about his numbers. You know what Jalen Brunson cares? Here's what Jalen Brunson cares about. Jalen Brunson's out there trying to take a charge when they're up by 24 points with 5-6 minutes left in the game. That's what Jalen Brunson cares about. That's what he's about. That is one of the reasons why he is one of the most unique superstars. I mean, he's one of the most unique superstars we have in the league right now because he's 6'0" and he has the low post moves of Hakeem freaking Olajuwon. And again, he's like a little taller than me. I'm not a tall man for anybody who doesn't know. So it is. I mean, I wonder with this recent stretch. Well, one, how they looked without him, and two, this recent stretch. I wonder if that's going to give him enough of a push to start the All-Star game because that's the only conversation left. I mean, Breen said it at the end of the broadcast. He's going to the All-Star game. He's going to Indy. It's just a matter of whether he starts or not, and obviously the fan vote has a lot to do with that, and I wonder if that's going to hold him back too much. But he's one of the two best guards in the East this year. It's him and his Team USA teammate Tyrese Haliburton. That's it. Those are the two best guards in the East this year, and so they have this guy. It was always going to be about maximize. Once they realized what they got, and I don't even think they realized what they got when they got him. Once they got him and realized what they had, it was all about maximizing what you have with him. And yes, he's a superstar. No, he's not a great defensive player. And so it was always going to be about how can you insulate his one big weakness, which is defense. How can you insulate that? And they went out and got OG Anunoby, who is perhaps the best. Like if you want the best person in the entire league at that, right? Insulating the weaknesses of your ball dominant players, because we got Julius too. So it's just it all comes back to that. Incredible game from Jalen Brunson. Really a top-notch game, I would say, from every Knick for as dicey as that first half was, and it was quite dicey. I'll get back to the turnovers in a bit because it's obviously it's a big story of this game. But like for as dicey as it was, like who had a bad game? Brunson, it goes without saying. Julius Randle got a triple-double. Yeah, Julius Randle had some moments in the first. I mean, he ended up with 7 turnovers. He had some moments in the first half, especially where it's like, oh my God, Julius, what are you doing? But then he balances those out with some of the. I mean, his passing. Is it as consistent as you would like? The playmaking, ball handling, passing, whatever you want to say, reaction to double teams, reaction timing, all that stuff. It's never going to be as clean and as crisp as you want it to be. And if I was a team playing the Knicks in the playoffs, I would be just doubling Julius. Not hard doubles, but like, what Atlanta did, what Miami did. We know how to do it because we see it. Smart teams do it. Like, that's what you do, and you dare him to make the right decisions and trust. And when he doesn't, it's 2 points the other way because that's the big Knicks issue. But when he's making the right decision, and like he had some of those moments tonight where he was just patient and just waiting for the play to develop, waiting for whoever it was to cut, whether it was OG Anunoby cutting underneath the basket in the second half. He had another one in the first half where he just waited, boom, hit someone on a cut, and it was easy bucket. His passing ceiling right now is higher than it's ever been in his career, which is a testament to him and his work ethic. Talked about Anunoby already. I'm going to get to the centers. I'm going to save the centers for last. I thought DiVincenzo played an outstanding game, obviously 17 points on 7 of 12 shots. The biggest, for as great a three-point shooter as he has been this year, and I don't, this is going to come off as a slight to Grimes. Look, Grimes had some nice moments too. The biggest difference between him and Quentin Grimes, and the biggest reason why you have to have DiVincenzo in the starting lineup, I don't even know if it's the threes. I think it's what he could do inside the arc. Again, as a connector, as a finisher, as just a more diverse offensive player. The shooting helps too, although for him, he's in kind of, I guess, his version of a shooting slump. The guy that I really want to spotlight is Josh Hart, because his contributions, he ended up with 10 points and 9 rebounds. his contributions will get lost in this game because there was so much else going on with Brunson and Quickly and Barrett and Randall with the triple-double. Josh Hart turned this game around in the first quarter when the Knicks were down 11. And, like, they weren't, like, playing with bad energy or anything like that. It was just they were, like, something that was off, right? They came out, they were firing on all cylinders in terms of shot making, but something was off. And it was very clear that it was off. And once upon a time, that would have been Emmanuel Quickly's job to come in and change the mojo. Well, now Quickly's in Toronto. So I thought it was fitting from that perspective that Josh Hart came in the game and changed the mojo. I think he either had 8 of his 10 points or all 10 of his points in the first quarter. I don't even remember. And yes, ended up with 9 rebounds. Grimes only shot 2 for 8, missed all 4 of his threes. Thought he had some nice moments. He had the very nice dunk. But you also saw there were some moments where it's like, oh, okay, that's why that's maybe why he's on the block. Go back to one play that he made, which stood out to me a lot in a second, but I do want to mention Deuce McBride. Man, I thought Benji just nailed it with his tweet a little while ago. Hell of a defender. Seems like he's a legit shooter now. Deuce McBride's not a point guard. And exciting night, great night tonight. But when you see what Quickly is doing with Toronto, and especially from a passing perspective, with Toronto, to process the fact that they went from that dude as their fucking backup point guard to now, and again, it's going to sound like a slight to Deuce. It is not. He's a very, very nice basketball player. I think he could be a rotation player on a good team. But to go from that as your backup point guard to this as your backup point guard, that's the key. Backup point guard. I mean, you want to talk about a drop off? My Lord. I mean, the end of that third quarter was frightening. But then last part of the conversation in terms of going through the stat sheet for individual players is the centers. The reason I stopped myself on Grimes before is that one of my favorite moments of the game was the 2-man game that Grimes and Achua showed on that one possession there that ended up, I think it was in an Achua dunk. And you saw, and maybe Grimes could tap into a little bit more of that. You know who could definitely tap into a lot more of that is Precious Achua. And my Lord, if you had Precious Achua as like potentially the revelation coming out of this game on your bingo card, take a fucking bow. That dude, and credit to Fred Katz, who said it right after the trade on his on Katz and Shoot. Precious Achua will have moments where you watch and you see stuff that he does, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. This guy's like, he's incredible. And how many of those moments did he have in the fourth quarter, especially? But even before that, I mean, the dude finished 9 for 10 for the game. I thought he was really good. Maybe not in the first half. First half wasn't great. Second half, from the moment he came in the second half, even before the fourth quarter, I thought he was outstanding. And you could do some different things with him. You do different things with him on defense, certainly with the switching. You could do some things with him on the offensive end with his ability to put the ball on the floor and make some plays at or above the level of an Isaiah Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein, obviously a better passer, but in terms of a full, well-rounded offensive game, Achua could really do some stuff. And getting to a sour note, they may need him to do some stuff because Isaiah Hartenstein left this game with a sore ankle. We have no idea the severity of that. For as great as Precious was tonight, I want to think about what this team looks like without Isaiah Hartenstein available. Truly. Tib, GMAC's telling me in the chat, Tib said afterwards it's a sprain. Okay. That's good. As long as there's no x-rays or MRI scheduled, then that's fine. Achua needs to sit out a game, or excuse me, Hartenstein needs to sit out a game, sit out a couple of games. Like the Knicks coming up now, they make the long trip to Brooklyn, and then after that, it's Denver and Miami, back to back at home, which and Hartenstein actually, I would love to see him against Jokic. But honestly, there's a part of me that's like, you know what, you got the 2-time MVP coming to town. Maybe take that night off if you're Hartenstein and you just You take your medicine if you're the Knicks on that night. And then after that, it's bam. A week from today in Miami. Kind of wondering if maybe 2 games off wouldn't be the worst thing for Isaiah. We'll see. He's not a guy who obviously likes to miss games. He's never missed a game as a Knick. Maybe he'll be back at Brooklyn. Who knows? And like Brooklyn, like a lot of teams in the league, Brooklyn, they've been struggling a lot, but he's spunky. They're spunky. Like they beat the Lakers last night. It's a good win for them. So we just hope it's not serious. I mean, a couple games, whatever. You hope it's not serious. They should have enough to beat Brooklyn, even if he doesn't give it a go. And apparently there was some positive. Mitch, I don't want to call it news, but Alex, shout out to Alex, are one of our great patrons at Knicks Film School. Maybe I don't even know. Wasn't aware that this account existed, but it's apparently an account that keeps track of like what players' designations are or something along those lines. And something about Mitchell Robinson's injury designation, I think, changed. Like he's not playing anytime soon, obviously, but something that was positive, I thought. Couple other just brief thoughts on the game, and then I'll bring GMAC up here and we'll get to the super chats. The rebounding was nice to see. And again, this Raptor team is not a good rebounding team. They've never been a particularly rebounding team, which is strange because they've been like pretty big. But even when they had Siakam and Anunoby and Barnes, they're never a great rebounding team. That to out rebound a team 61-31 is, I mean, that's staggering. They almost doubled them up, which is wild. That is another area that was a strength early on, and then it kind of went away, and now it's a strength again with the. And I attributed a lot to Anunoby. So great stuff there. Good job by the Knicks, somewhat limiting the turnovers in the second half. They had 13 turnovers in the first half, and the big thing in the first half was the Raptors scored 21 points off those turnovers. Second half, 9 turnovers, obviously not great either, but they were a little bit better in terms of limiting the points off those turnovers. Raptors only scored 8 points off those 9 turnovers in the second half. So they cleaned up the one area they had to clean up a little bit. Still not great. Won another game where you didn't shoot the lights out from 3. That was nice. Actually, after the first quarter, the Knicks started out 7 for 14 from 3. For the rest of the game, the Knicks only hit 7 of 24. So to pull away in a game where you're not hitting threes again after the first, that's an encouraging sign. All of these things are encouraging signs as this team continues to try to figure out different ways to win and not have to rely on some of the same stuff. But just really, I mean, I'm really happy. I hope everybody out there is really happy. Again, Quickly and Barrett both got to have some nice moments in their comeback to the Garden. But at the end of the day, this is Knicks Film School. We care about the Knicks. I care about the Knicks, at least. I will always care about the Knicks first and foremost. And the Knicks are better today than they were before this trade, even if it may not appear like it always on some nights or parts of some nights. And I think they showed as much tonight. So, yeah, that's all I got. I don't know what else there is to say. At GMAC.
Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Emotional night at MSG.
I'm good.
Good Knicks win.
I thought it was a very nice win.
I believe there is some cause for celebration, though.
Why?
Because shout out to the fine folks over at Prize Picks. And in fact, if you would like to take advantage of our current promo code, which is prizepicks.com/KFS, you get a first deposit match up to $100. That's Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. You're looking at a 4-4 night for the
KFS. 4-4-4.
4-for-4 night. Yes.
You said 4 and 4. Can I read them?
Yeah, go ahead.
So listen, Prize Picks, I love you. Thank you for sponsoring the show. Truly, we appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Uh-oh.
Jalen Brunson, 2.5 threes made. Like
Yeah.
everybody,
Easy
that's
money.
what. Like, do you have a cash machine? Like, do you have a thing in Prize Picks headquarters that prints money? Because 2.5 threes, what, in a quarter? Like, when did he hit this? He hit it in the
First 5 minutes is when I hit my bet. Yes, I hit my pick before the second commercial break was done.
There you go. So I mean, keep doing it, Prize Picks. Like you're gonna get a lot of action here from Knicks fans. Moving on, XJ, not surprised at all. He took this 9.5 rebounds and assists for Quickly. Hit it with assists alone. A really outstanding passing game for Emmanuel Quickly. RJ Barrett from Sean, under 20.5 points. Wait a minute. He didn't go under 20.5 points, did he?
John, not only did he go under 20.5 points, he took 4 free throws after he already had 20 points and missed all 4. A 3-for-9 night at the line for RJ Barrett. I was watching the third quarter being like, oh, he's going to hit it easily. We're going to go 3-1. And it's as if RJ knew, you know what? My last gift to the Garden is that the Knicks Film School betting and sweating crew will go 4 for 4 in betting and sweating.
I mean, I was obviously cognizant of the missed free throws. I think the emotion of the night probably got probably got the best of him.
But I didn't regression.
I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it was the difference for Sean. And then fourth, last but not least, Mensa, loving the Scotty Barnes hate. Under 19.5 points for Scotty Barnes. I think he could have played another 4 quarters. I'm not sure he would have gotten to 19.5 tonight. OG Anunoby's played some nice defense on Mr. Barnes, I thought.
Got that right. I think as a team, the Knicks also defended him really well. The Josh Hart lineup, the Quentin Grimes lineup when he was out there, they're just across the board. Scotty Barnes also got hurt early in the game, so he was holding his back at certain points. Yeah. So I wonder how much that had to do.
Hopefully he's okay. He's going to catch a lot of shit from Knicks fans tonight. He is one of the rising stars of the league. However, I will say this isn't a Scotty Barnes criticism, but I do wonder, and we'll go to the super chats and talk Knicks after this. But
hey there, you're good. Get your point out.
Moving forward with building, if you're trying to build the Raptors, if you're Masai Ujiri, I know Trent has not had a good shooting season. He also hasn't started a whole lot, but they have now 2 elite shooters. Not elite shooters. That's the wrong word. They have 2 shooters you have to guard and who could hit shots, and Quickly and Trent. I'm curious to see how their offense is for the rest of the year between those 2 guys, because Barnes, is he ever going to be a great shooter? I don't know. He's the numbers are there this year. The percentages are good, but teams jumping out to guard him, and then there's RJ, right? So it's a question for them for this summer in terms of Trent is going to maybe gone, but they're going to, I'm sure, replace him with a shooter, right? So it'll be interesting, how RJ slots in if he's still in Toronto next year, because they already kind of space the floor with their 5 sometimes between Boucher and Pirtle's not a spacer, but he could do some stuff on the offensive end. I don't know. Interesting team building questions for them.
I think there's a lot of questions for them over the next, not even the next year, over the next month, because the next big question is is Gary Trent Jr. and Jakob Pirtle on the team on the other side of the deadline, as well as Bruce Brown. So if they want to get more assets, I mean, you got Grady Dick, who showed that he has a nice shooting stroke out there. I'll get all the jokes out that you want. However,
he's pale though.
What's up?
He's pale.
He is
pale dick.
A pale dick, yes.
Interesting team building questions for the Raptors moving forward. Hey, what do you say we get some super chats, Andrew?
Let's do it.
Hold on.
Hold on. There you go.
Once again, go to prizepicks.com/KFS. Use code KFS for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy, especially if they keep posting 2.5 as the over-under for Brunson threes. You're not going to get much easier than that. Okay, here we go. I expect this will be fun.
So we actually have to start before the game.
Oh, Jesus.
So actually, before the game ended, I should say, shout out to
Okay.
Mythic Monty and to Jasso Focus, who sent in super chats before the game ended.
Okay.
First one is this.
Mythic Monty, these turnovers are infuriating. Yes.
And then
Agree.
Jasso Focused.
Should have bet the over on Julius Randle turnovers, hashtag prize picks. Yes, Jasso Focus. The turnovers were rough, but actually, this would be a good excuse to talk about the one thing I didn't get a chance to talk about in the pregame or in the preamble. Not that I'm not worried about turnovers, not that the turnovers don't infuriate me. They do, and I am a little worried. And people who could see the game better than I can could push back on this. I feel like it's coming from a good place. Because what's been the criticism of this team, really, since Tom Thibodeau took over, but, especially the last year and a half when they've had a very good offense, is like the ball movement isn't there. It gets more stagnant. It gets too stagnant, and like they're easy to figure out in close games and the whole thing. Like, yeah, turnovers are awful, and the fact that they don't defend in transition, it makes it worse. I feel like there is a real, genuine, renewed effort for the right reasons to move the ball more with this team, especially since OG Anunoby arrived. Obviously, it has not gone well at all times, but you look tonight and like, yeah, I know they had a ton of turnovers. They made some outstanding passes across the board. I mean, that Brunson pass to the opposite corner when I couldn't. That might be the best pass he's ever made as a Knick. And then it went ping, 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 and it ended up, I think, with him making a three. And Randall had a bunch of those, and there were some other ones with DiVincenzo getting the ball on a cut, and like Achua involved in the passing. Like, I'm not saying we're like approaching like the Warriors, who were they set the new standard for passing over the last 5-10 years, whatever it's been. We're not. We're never going to be that. We don't have those level of passers. But like the reason I bring the Warriors up is like, guess what the Warriors also do a lot? They turn the ball over a fuck ton. I wonder if there's a happy medium. There's going to have to be, because Tibbs is going to have a fucking aneurysm if they keep turning the ball over at this rate. But I just wanted to say that I think it's coming from a good place. That's all I wanted to say. And Mythic Monty with another one. Amazing what we can only do with one rotation point guard. When's that trade deadline? It's 18 days, 19 days away, 19 days away. I'm so fascinated to see if there's urgency here. And like, you'd figure it's going to take to the deadline, because these sorts of those level of deals, like the team, the guys that you're trying to get, teams are going to be trying to milk every last dime out of you. It is not going to be like the Anunoby deal. It is not going to be like the Siakam deal. Those were unique circumstances. That's why those deals happened when they did. And I'm not going to go review why that was, but those were unique. The sorts of deals now the Knicks are looking to make for a backup point guard, certainly, maybe for another big man. So they're going to have to figure it out for the next 19 days. Michael Aaron, what's going on, Michael? Speaking strictly on court here, how ecstatic must RJ and Julius be to know they never have to be on the same starting five ever again? Great comment, Michael. Fantastic. I look, I didn't necessarily love that Julius step back at the end of the third quarter when the game was like still kind of in doubt. When he was kind of being playful with RJ there. It's a shame because like those guys developed a great bond. They developed a great friendship. I believe that is real. And I don't think either of them like playing with the other. If they did, they sure had a funny way of showing it, because they ended their time together with a giant negative in terms of their on-court time together, which is it's astounding when you think about how good the Knicks have been by and large over the time that they played together. Even during times when they were good this year, like last year, like those guys were not a positive together. So good for them to be on different teams. Also, good win for the Thunder. I just saw they came back and beat the Wolves. Michael Aaron with another one. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate this, man. I'll never forget when Brunson came here. He very humbly said he wasn't a savior and then proceeded to change the trajectory of the franchise. Unreal. I don't think I've fully processed it. Because you want to know the real sin of it? Like, Becky Hammond got killed for saying what she said. And I don't want to get into all that, but it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't. Your natural inclination, if you've been watching this sport for a long time, yes, intellectually, you are cognizant of the Kuzis and the Archibalds and the Isaiahs and the AIs and the the Nashes of NBA history, but instinctively, when you see a guy this size, you don't think franchise savior. It's just not something that even if you see him doing what he's doing, and we've been seeing it for a year and a half, and we saw it before that when he destroyed the Utah Jazz, in a playoff series. It's just, but that's what he is. I mean, he's changed everything. And that's why, how does the conversation continue to change? The conversation continues to change because this notion that, they need to get, it always goes back, they need someone better than Jalen Brunson. How many players in the league are they going to go out and get that you're going to want to put the ball in their hands in the last 5 minutes of a close game more than Jalen Brunson? How many of those guys exist? Here, I'm going to say something that if the wrong Philly fan gets their hands on it, I'll get destroyed for it. But I'm going to say it anyway because I believe it. It might be a silly thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'd rather have the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands the last 5 minutes of a close game than Joel Embiid's. And that's only because I've watched Joel Embiid in the Philadelphia 76ers and a lot of close games in the playoffs down the stretch over the years. It's just tougher for a big man who we see those struggles, especially when the guy, he's big, he tires out. Now, Jalen Brunson gets tired in a different way because he's small, and that takes a toll on him. But, man, not many guys I'd rather have. So, again, going back to the conversation, you don't have your best player. Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe they need to get a player who, all around is a quote unquote better player than Jalen Brunson. Is Paul George a better player than Jalen Brunson? I don't know. He's a little older now, so it's a different conversation. But okay, fine. For argument's sake, let's say Paul George, when you consider both ends of the court, is a better player than Jalen Brunson. Fine. I'd love to have Paul George on this team. But Jalen Brunson, even if they get, again, I'm just using it as an example, Paul George, he's still going to kind of be the man. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting conversation. It's one that's really fun to have because it means that Jalen Brunson is just doing things that we haven't seen as Knicks fans for a very long time. Thanks, Michael. Jesse M. I better see the Woj tweet at 12:01 a.m. the second Jalen is eligible for an extension. Blank check. That's done. That's done. There's no negotiate. Oh my God, what's the movie line? Oh my God, Michael Clayton. Do I look like I'm negotiating? No. Jalen Brunson's not going to have to negotiate. Just hand him the check. That's how that's going to go. Thank you, Jesse. Oh my goodness. I didn't know. I hoped. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. I had hope, though. I don't even know what he said yet. Maybe he's going to piss me off. It's good to have you back, Robert. Robert Cross. Robert W. Cross, excuse me. First time, long time. It's your boy, John. I miss you, my friend. What do you want the Knicks to do with the deadline? Look at that. A measured comment from Robert Cross. I'm not sure I'm prepared for is the new Robert going to be just measured comments? I don't know do we want that? Is that what we want in our lives? It's like the Knicks after the trade. Maybe they're better, but we lost something special. I want them to get a playmaker, backup point guard, or maybe not necessarily a backup point guard, but just a guy that can create an advantage. That's it. Just get a guy that can create an advantage. And in a perfect world, whoever that player is will be able to play, I don't know, 5 minutes a half next to Jalen Brunson. Because here's the problem, and this is really the conundrum the Knicks have. The Knicks right now, Dante DiVincenzo, like, he's earned minimum like half of every game at the 2 guard. Tibbs does continue to like to go to this Josh Hart at the 2 lineup. Yes, the spacing is rough, but there is something there's something about that I like. I don't want to abandon it completely, and I don't think they should abandon it completely. I don't think they will abandon it completely. So you're going to get some Hart at the 2 minutes for sure. So, like, the guy that they get is going to have to be able to play alongside Jalen Brunson. And why are you making the trade? You're not making it for your fucking health. You're making it because you're trying to get to certainly the second round of the playoffs and mess around, maybe get a good matchup, the right matchup, maybe even go further than that. When you get into those sorts of playoff series, the conversations about the amount of time that you could have multiple guys on the floor at the same time that the very best teams in the league can take advantage of, it gets dicier. So, like, just to throw a name out there, Jordan Clarkson, right? His name has been reported. I think Michael Scotto reported it. I think Mark Stein reported that the Knicks are looking at Clarkson. Like, how many minutes in a playoff game against the Bucks, or how many minutes in a playoff game against the Celtics can you get away with playing those 2 guys on the floor at the same time? Can you get away with 10 minutes? 12? I don't know. So that's going to be the thing really for me is can you get a guy that you could really put out there with Brunson for, and it's not just like, oh, we can get away with this amount of time. It's like, no, that player is going to have the sort of offensive game which is going to complement Jalen Brunson and make Jalen Brunson better, and Jalen Brunson will make whoever that player is better. Is that Brogdon? Is that Clarkson? Those are 2 names that I'm really keyed in on. I think those are 2 really good names. I think those 2 names make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. And maybe they need a backup 5. We'll see what the news is on Hartenstein. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate you. It's good to have you back, man. TJ2K, not going to lie, I cried at 9 and 5's entrance. Hashtag once a Knick, always a Knick. I think that a lot of people did. Everybody processed tonight in their own way. I don't have that level of emotional maturity, because to me, that's just nothing but happiness for those guys, which is what it should be. So kudos to you. I'm far too I don't know what the word is. Something. I'm
dead inside.
No, it's not dead inside. It's the opposite. Insecure. It's insecure. Because it's insecurity that you are worried that I made this analogy in the Substack chat before the game. Why are you upset when you're going to see your ex for the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be something, you're going to see a moment, you're going to see them be happy with their new person that they're with. That's going to make you think in the back of your mind, no matter how happy you are with the person you're with now, oh shit, man, look what I'm missing out on. Look what I could have had. Look what maybe could have been. And I think it takes an immense amount of emotional maturity to get past that, especially so soon after the trade. Now, maybe I'm making this way too complicated and way too deep, but like, I've had to confront a lot of these things, especially looking back on my initial emotions and reactions after the trade. But I think that had to do a lot more with how like social media bullshit than the players themselves. Anyway, so yeah,
Hold
that's my
on.
answer. What do you do?
I have something for you. Hold
No, you
on. I
don't.
think it'll help. I think that's how you spell that. Yeah. Here you go.
That's great. Listen, I'm out there. I'm an open book. I process these things as best I can. When I have time for therapy, you'll be the first person to know. I'll tell you that.
I'm sure. I might drive you there.
Sorry, Andrew. I'm taking tonight off. I have a therapy session.
Oh my gosh, he's getting therapy, guys. It's working. We finally bullied him into it.
There it is.
As long as it doesn't require an intervention, I'm good.
Yeah. Stevens Guillaume, Precious Achua revenge game. Drop the Jeremy vid. Man, again, talk about things that you had on your bingo card. Emmanuel quickly be of all the players that were involved in the trade. How about IQ being the fourth leading scorer of those 5?
Yeah, as Benji said tonight, who knew the Knicks got the 3 best players in the trade?
I didn't get that because it implies that Flynn.
He sent that when Evil Dante hit the 3.
When he hit the 3.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. And to Stevens Guillaume's request, hold on a second, everybody. Hold on.
I don't even know what video he's talking about.
You really have no
the
idea?
dancing.
There we go. He's caught up, everybody. Hold on. I'm getting it. So we can both watch it together. By the way, advanced stats check. The Knicks are up to 7th in net rating.
More importantly than that, I'll pull it up right now.
Where are they in defense?
Well, no, actually, it's where are they in offense because finally, shockingly, the tables have turned and their defense passed their offense after the most recent game, and they were top 10 in defense. They're up to 7th in defense. They are up to 9th in offense as of this very moment. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a big fucking deal because we are 42 games into a basketball season, and your New York Knicks are top 10 in offense and top 10 in defense. Joining, here are the other teams that are top 10 in offense and defense. You ready? The New Orleans Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not that impressive. The Philadelphia 76ers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Boston Celtics. So Boston, OKC, Philly, all contenders. And then the Pelicans are a very interesting team, very up and down team.
You know what we have to do to celebrate this occasion, John?
So, is that his date?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's a nice job.
You can ask him more information, not on the live stream with the 1,000 people watching, but yes, from what I can tell, that was somebody he brought to the game.
That's good job by you, Jeremy.
Good job by you, indeed.
Good job by you.
You're welcome, Stevens. We got it to play. Next up on the. By the way, the Packers are winning. If you care about that,
I just put it on. How about me watching football? Really?
Look at you! Oh,
because I don't think is there a competitive basketball game on right now? I didn't think there. Oh wait, no, the Jazz and the Rockets are competitive. I think.
Yeah, I got ridiculed for watching the Knicks tonight. It's not like it's my job or anything because there's play of football on.
Well, I'll you know what? I'll keep this on. Okay.
There you go.
Thanks, Stevens. Next up, Sam L. What's going on, Sam? How are you? Oh wow, Rockets Jazz in overtime. Emotional game, yes. Really feel the team is headed in the right direction after a performance like this. The right move or no move could land us in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think it's no move, Sam. I don't think it's no move. What I will tell you is this, and we don't know how the playoff matchups are gonna shake out. This is gonna be tough because Boston's gonna be the number 1 seed, and I don't think anyone in the East is beating Boston without an injury. Now, that said, the longer you go into the playoffs, the better chance there is, in theory, of teams suffering an injury. with how competitive and tough and tight these games are. If the Knicks are in the 4-5, then you're playing Boston in the second round, and I cannot tell you how highly I think of Boston, for as much as they do have very legitimate crunch time issues, and those came to a head against Denver in what was an exceptional ball game last night. But the flip side of the coin is like, all right, if the Knicks can't get up to third, which I mean that would be great, but let's assume that they're not going to be able to catch Philly, which I don't think they will. Well, then it's like, all right, well, if you the only way to avoid Boston until the conference finals would be to fall down to 6th, and then you're playing Philly in the first round. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, well, maybe we're not making it out of the first round if we play Philly. Because, like, again, could we beat Philly in a 7-game? Sure. I think it's possible. I mean, the Knicks wouldn't be favored. I don't think they should be favored. But I think that'd be a fun series. Where I was trying to get to, and I've taken quite a circuitous route to get there, is this Bucks team, man. I watched a decent amount of that game earlier tonight when they had to go to the final minute to beat a Pistons team without Cade Cunningham, whose best player was probably Alec Burks tonight. Like, that Bucks team, something's off with that team. So, like, the notion that the East is insurmountable, that it's this gauntlet, I don't believe that. I think it's just Boston, and I think there's a drop off. All that being said, I could rattle off 5 or 6 teams that the Knicks could lose to in a 7-game series. That's what makes the East so interesting this year. You know, like, especially now after the Siakam trade with Indiana. I don't think he's going to fix their defense, but I think he'll make them better. The Cavs, man, what the Cavs have been doing, that says so much about them and what they've built and their culture and the whole thing. I'd still pick us against the Cavs, but, like, they're a really good team. And I haven't even mentioned Miami. So, like, this is a super competitive East. I think for all of these teams, other than Boston, you could tell me that they could lose in the first round, and that includes Milwaukee and Philly. You could tell me they would lose in the first round. You could tell me they're in a Game 7 in the Boston Garden in the Eastern Conference Finals. You could, and the Knicks are, I think, part of that club. So, yeah, we'll see. Hush Zoo, what's going on, Hush? How you doing? Brunson is not a star. He's a superstar, all caps. Playoff monster, very clutch, all-NBA caliber. What other boxes does he need to check off? He really is a 1A. I mean, the biggest box is the defense, but there's a lot of stars that don't defend. I think the difference between other stars that don't defend and Brunson is, you know, if you're talking about a Luka, or you're talking about a Halliburton, you know, I'm trying to think of other guys who deserve to end up on an MVP ballot this year. I'm sure there's another one or two that I'm forgetting. Curry's the closest in terms of, like, I was going to say Luka, Halliburton, like they have some size. Like, Luka really has a lot of size. So if, like, he tries, that's all it is with Luka. He just needs to try. Halliburton to a lesser extent, but also true. Like, he just needs to try. He's long. He's got a long frame. Like, he could do some things. He should not be able to be bullied as much as he gets bullied. Steph's the closest comp, but Steph's other offense has been so otherworldly. I mean, he's one of the 5 greatest offensive players of all time, probably at his prime. You know, Brunson is not that, which is not an insult to Brunson, but, like, Brunson, because of his size, could get picked on more than any of those guys. So it's like, how much do you need to do to overcome that? Obviously, you need to try your ass off on defense, which he does. And he's improved this year on the defensive end, even if it's been some peaks and valleys. And you need to be unguardable on the offensive end. And, like, is he unguardable? I think he's pretty damn close with the 3-pointer that he has now. The only thing that still bothers him is when he goes against a team with a ton of length. When he goes against a team with a ton of length, with a really, really tip-top defense, I think that could still bother him. It could still bother him. But, like, how many players in the NBA are like, you know, it doesn't matter what defense they play, they're going to be able to produce their same results regardless. So, are there how many of those? Are there 3 of those guys? 4 of those guys? 5 of those guys? I mean, it's like Durant, Doncic, Jokic. But even there are certain centers that give Jokic tough time. So it's a short list. Steph, but although Steph's kind of a little up and down for him this year, he's a superstar. He's a superstar. That's all there is to it. Jason M. told you at halftime. It's simple. We got Brunson. They don't. You called it, Jay. You've been good this year, Jason. You've called a lot of them. You've been good. Thank you as always, man. Halftimes would not be the same without you. Sam L with another one. Can you freaking imagine adding Alec Burks to this group of dogs? Those dogs will motherfucking hunt. We want Burks. We want Burks. I mean, look, I love Alec Burks. Is he what this team needs? Man. I mean, what are the boxes that I said before? Can play alongside Jalen Brunson? You think Alec Burks can play alongside Jalen Brunson? You think Alec Burks can play alongside Julius Randle? Can Alec Burks run your backup point guard? Essentially, can he get you into? Can he execute a pick and roll? He would help them. His contract would not help them because he is an expiring contract, and Jeremy's been all over this for weeks. Longer than weeks. He's been all over this since the summer. That said, they have a great relationship with Alec Burks. I don't want to get down a cap rabbit hole right now, but like maybe part of acquiring Burks is he agrees that I will participate in any sign and trade you want to do. Now, implicit in that is that the team acquiring him in the sign and trade has to be willing to accept whatever the contract is, which would probably mean that he's going to sign for whatever the number is. It can't be more than 20% raise off his current number because then you're dealing with base year compensation issues and you don't want to get into that. But let's say it's a 3-year, $36 million deal where the second and third years are non-guaranteed or have very small guarantees. Would he kind of preemptively agree to that before getting traded to the Knicks? That like, yes, I will make your life easier if you need to put me in a package for whoever this summer. But even then, you're talking about it's $12-13 million, which is not. That's the start of a package. It's not enough to get there. There's a lot of issues with the contract stuff. So, but I don't want to get into that too much right now. Thanks, Sam. Hush Zoo. I see why RJ is thriving in that offense. Good fit. It's a great fit. It's a really great fit. They move in transition. They move in the half court. It's the opposite of our offense, honestly. Like, everything that the Knicks do is out of isolation. That is not what the Raptors are doing. And it's a better fit for RJ. But I still have questions. I still have questions just, again, because – and it all comes down to the shooting. Thanks, Hush. And for what it's worth, I know he guarded Brunson tonight, and that maybe was not the wisest decision. I thought he defended okay tonight, for my 2 cents. Alex, love the tribute video for RJ and Quick and the reception they received. Tonight really showed how special OG is on defense, and what an effort from Precious. You ticked all the boxes there. Totally. I loved, for as great as the tribute video was, and you knew they were, I mean, I would have been shocked if they didn't give him the tribute video. What I thought was really cool was the how they introduced them in the starting lineup to introduce them like they would have been introduced when they were Knicks. That was really cool. Hush with another one. Forever grateful for RJ and IQ. Love them. Once a Knick, always a Knick. Yeah, they're going to be the best, maybe not the best part, but like one of the really cool things that would come out of the Knicks reaching that next level and OG Anunoby being part of them reaching that next level. It would be us as Knicks fans, like truly being able to fully enjoy everything Quickly and RJ do on the positive end for the rest of their careers. Now, some people will, again, who are more emotionally mature than me, will be able to do that already, and God bless if you could do that. But I speaking for myself, like if this thing goes awry in New York and Quickly and RJ like continue to bust out and get even better in Toronto, like there's definitely gonna be a part of me that's like, man, this kind of sucks, and I won't be able to be wholeheartedly happy for them. So, but forever grateful, yes, forever grateful, absolutely. Jessica, what's going on, Jess? How are you? Wham! That was lovely. Nice blowout to welcome the boys back home. Nice Julius Randle triple-double. Almost a quadruple-double. Another amazing Brunson game. OG was great. Hart did Hart things. Great second half. Precious wasn't bad. Let's go Knicks. Precious was more than just not bad. The conversation with Precious, it's both ends of the floor. And you saw it more in the fourth quarter. Like, you have to switch with that guy. Maybe not you have to, but like he's so much better in a switching defense. That's how you use him. That's his benefit, is he could be a switch five. And he's not gonna hang with everybody, obviously, but it's gonna but the problem is, like, so if you revert to a switching defense with him on the floor, everybody else on the floor needs to kind of do something that they're not really used to doing. And we see the Knicks already occasionally botch switches when they do switch. So it'll be really interesting to see, I mean, if like how big a role he plays moving forward, how long that lasts, and what they do on defense. On offense is just it's a commitment to putting him in spots where he could be successful. That's probably an oversimplification, but like he could clearly do stuff on the offensive end, and he has skills, and let's see if they can exploit those skills. Thanks, Jess. Appreciate you as always. Chewing on! Very generous, chewing on. Thank you. This is the most cohesive I've seen Jalen and Julius. I combined them. I said Jalius? Jalen and Julius look together. They've both had great games together before, but this is the first time I can remember them make each other have a great game. More of this. That's how we win. You have a lot of great observations, Chewing on. I don't give you enough credit. I think DJ especially, but Benji too, also have been all over how Brunson's improved shooting, how Randle has utilized that to the Knicks' advantage and Brunson with his constant relocations behind the 3-point arc to open up like passing lanes for Julius, and the fact that now, like when Brunson gets that, when Julius does what he's doing, backs whoever he's backing down, if Brunson's the only guy there on the strong side, it's an instant putting it up. There's no hesitation. He's firing away from three, as he should, because he's become one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. So, and then as far as Jalen making Julius better, I just think the attention that he draws and the fact that, but that's on Julius, that's incumbent on Julius, just like it's incumbent on Jalen to relocate behind the 3-point arc. It's incumbent on Julius to move without the ball as well. And which is something that has been not always necessarily a strength of his. I think on the offensive end, I know he's not perfect. I know he's been turning the ball over more than we'd like. So pleased with Julius's evolution this year. Truly. And that's the right word for it, for me at least. Brendan Kohler, what's going on, man? It's great to hear from you. Weirdly emotional after that. No, it's not weird at all. I don't think it's weird. I'm same boat. RJ good, but flawed. IQ showing starting point guard potential. JB, MVP type night. Randle good all around. OG was great on defense. The MVP right now, there's an opening on the ballot. So again, the MVP, unlike every other award, the ballot is 5 names. Every other award, the ballot is 3 names. And the top 4 are not locked in because it's early, but like for all intents and purposes, they're locked in. It's Jokic, it's Embiid, Jokic, SGA, and Giannis in some order. After that, are you telling me that like Jalen Brunson couldn't sneak ahead of Halliburton? You telling me that Jalen Brunson couldn't sneak ahead of Tatum? You're telling me that Jalen Brunson couldn't sneak ahead of Kawhi? Luka, it's going to depend on the record because if the Mavs finish with like a record that's like right around where the Knicks finished, that's like he's everything for that team. He'd probably be, for me, he's in the pole position for the 5th spot right now. You know, I haven't even mentioned anyone on Phoenix. I haven't mentioned anyone on the Lakers because those teams are obviously struggling. But like Brunson's in that, he's in that 5 to 10. You know, I mean, like a guy like Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, like those guys might get. If the Timberwolves finish first in the West, you don't think those guys are going to get a couple of votes? So it's competitive. I think there's kind of an opening in that 5th spot. Luka, the other thing with Luka, and this should go for other guys too, maybe even Embiid. The game's played thing. I'd be shocked if that didn't knock at least one person out. You know, not Giannis, because Giannis plays a lot and Jokic plays a lot and SGA plays a ton. But like Halliburton's missed time, Embiid's missed time. You know Durant's going to miss more time, even if the Suns do start to put it together. So, you know, I mentioned Luka. I forget how many games Luka's missed, but he's missed some games. So he's in the conversation. Absolutely. Will Oliver, shots of maple syrup tonight, praying iHeart is okay. We should all pray that iHeart is okay. Because this team can't. Again, a game or two, fine. There's a part of me that would almost be happy if he was out for a game or two to just get him some rest. But more than that, it's going to be tough. Thanks, Will. Dom Cappuccini, what's going on, Dom? Great to hear from you. Thank you as always. They drove me absolute bananas with the early turnovers. Once they settled down and played their game, they showed what kind of force they could be when their roster is fully complete. I love this fucking team. It's an easy team to like, and like, just think they're 9-2 since this trade. And think of how many moments of worry and consternation, to use my favorite word, even you tonight, right now, Dom, you're like, they drove me bananas with the early turnovers. They're driving all of us crazy. They're 9-2 since this trade. Do they have the best rating in the net rating in the league since January 1st? I'm going to look it up unless Andrew beats me to it. But like, it is really, really hard to have expected much better from them. Second best net rating in the league, barely behind Cleveland. Barely. Because the Cavs have just been mopping up on everybody. Thanks, Tom.
Barely is 5 points?
I have it. I did by last 11 games. So then
I did it since January 1st.
Oh, that's interesting. So maybe last 11 games, Cavs plus 14.7, Knicks plus 13.6. So since January 1st,
Knicks 13.6, Cleveland 18.9.
How many games for Cleveland since January 1st?
Only 8. Yeah, it's three fewer games. So you're right there.
Okay. So, yeah, three fewer games. That's notable in and of itself. Cavs have gotten some rest.
What's that like?
I don't know. And you know who's third over the last 11 games?
I do. Yes. Benji's boys.
Man, Benji he's going to get winded. He's going to get more winded than the Knicks starters with the victory laps he's taken for the Jazz. Benji's Jazz. Benji's beloved Utah Jazz.
Yes, his beloved Utah Jazz to go along with his rock solid 4-38 Detroit Pistons.
Wait, they got a fourth win? What did I forget?
They beat the Wizards last week.
Oh, that's right. They beat the Wizards.
Yeah.
I forgot. That's my bad. I forgot they beat the Wizards.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, 4-38, the Wizards. And then, yeah.
Good stuff. Dan Hidalgo. What's going on, Dan? as much as it sucked losing RJ and IQ, at least one, they're together. Two, they're in a city that loves them. And three, we're going to get to see what it looks like to build a young team around them after all. Well, Dan, it sounds like you were a pretty big fan of these two guys and really would have liked to see them do that here. I'm not sure. I think that's a little bit of a faulty premise that to build a young team around them. Like, again, Scotty Barnes is the face of that franchise. He's going to continue to be the face of the franchise. He's a special player. They will have a chance to be very key cogs. You know, I what's cool about the opportunity that the Toronto Raptors have, and this goes specifically for Quickly, they could bring in. I feel like they have some optionality. Like so many teams, you're like, well, what kind of, like we talk about with the Knicks, like what kind of star are they going to bring in? Like, how is the star going to fit? I feel like the Raptors could bring in so many different types of guys because the versatility you get with Quickly, the versatility you get with Barnes, especially, and the fact that Barnes can help you win in a lot of ways when he doesn't have the ball, and Quickly can help you win in a lot of ways when he doesn't have the ball. So if you get a more traditional, just like, you know, more ball dominant guy and like, oh, how is he going to fit this and that? Like, I think they could fit a lot of different stars on their team. Now, I don't know where they're getting that guy from, especially since it's a crappy draft. They may not even keep their pick, but yeah, it'll be cool to see. And if you get enjoyment from seeing that, more power to you. Thanks, Dan. Chewing on with another one. What am I missing with Scotty Barnes? Dude looks like a Robin at best. No motor and has zero dog in him. Future face of the league. Am I wrong? No. Well, the face of the league thing was ridiculous. That's silly. He did not have a good game. I do think he has a really unique and special combination of skills on offense and defense. I absolutely think he's a Robin. If I've said anything that implies that I think Scotty Barnes is going to be like the best player on a championship team, please forgive me. I did not mean to imply that. But like, again, how many guys in the league can be the best player in a championship team? Like, in recent years, like James Harden and Russell Westbrook have won the MVP of the league, and they weren't capable of being the best player in a championship team. So that's not a knock on Scotty. I absolutely think he needs to be the number 2 because he's never going to be that level of scorer to be the number 1. But I think, is there a chance that I think he could be the best number 2 in the league? Absolutely. I think he's got that level of skill. And he's still young. He's a 4th-year player. Third year. Excuse me, 3rd-year player. Kid's still. That's the other thing. He's really young. Patrick Hederman. What's going on, Patrick? Evil Luigi is Waluigi, and Robert Randolph is definitely not in on the joke. That's all. Go Knicks. Andrew told me this as I was talking about it the other night. It's a bad job by me that I didn't realize that. Waluigi. I should have known that. Robert Randolph definitely being not in on the joke. I've kind of given up on Twitter. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I almost responded to a tweet of his earlier because somebody said something about like Clarkson to the Knicks for Fournier and Grimes. I think, and then he said something like Olynyk's in the deal too. And I was like, that's not legal under the cap. But I'm like, why? Why am I getting involved with this? This is stupid. So I didn't. We love you, Robert. Dom with another one. Have you noticed more emotion from Jalen Brunson now than last season, not including playoffs? I wondered tonight as I watched him. Choose my words carefully here. Like, I refuse to believe that any of these guys aren't completely and totally aware of everything that is in the discourse, at least involving their team. I have to think Jalen Brunson knows how Knicks fans on social media, at least, were universally like, even if they totally supported the trade, were universally like, oh my God, I can't believe we had to trade quickly. This sucks. I'm going to miss him so much. So on and so forth, this and that. I wonder if there wasn't a little extra juice tonight with him, because man, what he did to the fucking Raptors down the stretch of that game, well, it was still relevant, was cruel. That was cruel and unusual punishment. You could go to jail for lesser than what Jalen Brunson did to the Raptors tonight. And he was it was having fun. He was picking them apart like it was nothing. And like, it's going to sound like a knock on IQ. It's not a knock on IQ. Like, that's not Quickly. Like, Quickly can't do that. Maybe he will be able to do that at some point, but that's just not the sort of player he is. And so I wonder if Brunson, after kind of hearing, and like, obviously he's beloved. Obviously Brunson he was probably my favorite Knick from like within the first month or two that he got here. But again, like, there was a certain attachment that a lot of fans had to Quickly, and if Brunson was cognizant of that, I wonder if tonight there wasn't a part of it where it was like, listen, let me remind y'all, there are levels to this shit, and I'm at the top, because he is. Thanks, Tom. Hush Zoo with another one. OG is a legit monster on defense. It's kind of absurd. It's why they gave up Emmanuel Quickly to get RJ Barrett to get him. Yes. If you think about it, like, just think about what they gave up and what they're getting and what they're not getting. To give up what they gave up to get a guy who really does not he had a couple nice moves tonight. I will give him this. He had some really nice moves tonight. He had some really nice moves in the last game against Washington. He's showing a little bit more and more. But he's not an on-ball creator, right? He's not an engine. To give up what they gave up for a guy who's not an engine, like, that tells you all you need to know about how special he is and how much he impacts a defense, as does the fact that the Knicks, since they acquired him, are giving up how many points per 100 possessions? 103.5. Holy fuck. This is a team that had the worst defense in the league for a month. The worst defense in the league for a month. And Mitchell Robinson was here for 10 days of that. And they got OG Anunoby, and they are running roughshod. Now, I know the slate hasn't been awesome. They haven't played a lot of great offenses, but still, it's impressive. Thank you, Hush. Hush with another one. Also, can Ainge drop the ego and trade with us fair? Listen, man, he's gonna get everything he can. And for anybody who said he negotiated with the Knicks unfairly, look at what the dude got from Cleveland. Give him credit. Give credit where credit's due. Chris Carter, what's going on, Chris? So much agita being a fan. You say that again. But there is this magical sweet spot as where the team goes from joke to competitive, and you can just enjoy the fun. RJ and IQ were a big part of that, and I will always love and cherish them. I think that's probably better said than anybody has said it tonight. As many have said before, it's a business. I think Breen said it on the broadcast tonight, or Clyde said it on the broadcast tonight. It is business. It is at times an ugly business, but there's always a silver lining. And I think, again, for me, I don't know. I think it has to do with just how I see the game and what I value. To me, like I value when you're talking about building a championship contender, which is it's all I care about. It's always about who are your top two, who's your number one, who's your number two, and then there is a Pacific Ocean sized chasm, and then there are any other concerns that I might have. And so, like, I think for me, I decided pretty early on that RJ was not going to be one of those top two. And for as much as Quickly really did a lot to try to like make me reconsider this position, Quickly never elevated for me to the position of like, we can't like trade this guy because we're trading a potential like pillar of a future championship team. I never got to that point with him. I got to the point where I was like, this guy could be an all-star. And because of just how I don't know what the word to use, how I process the game and how I process fandom, because those guys never elevated to that level for me, they were always kind of more, because there's just two columns. There's only two columns. There's the players that are going to lead you to the promised land, and then there are players who are going to help you in your eventual pursuit of a championship as assets, potentially. And some guys fall in between, like Julius Randle. He skirts the line. Might he be a pillar of a championship team someday? Maybe. Might he be a stepping stone to get us somebody else? Maybe. Which is why if they trade Julius Randle, like I'm going to appreciate the hell out of the guy. The guy's a top 20 Knick ever, maybe even higher than that. But like, I don't think I'll shed any tears over him either. Brunson's different. Like, if Brunson's ever playing for another team, in the next whatever, well, he's still in his prime, that I don't know how I'll be able to process. And I think that's for a lot of folks like what it is with Quickly and RJ, because they don't view fandom as a balance sheet, because that's not fucking normal to do that. I don't know why I do. But for me, it was always like column A, column B. If you're in column B, it's like, all right, how are you going to help me get where I want to go? And which is why I think the best thing that anybody said tonight is all the comments about appreciating what they did for this franchise and honoring what they did for this franchise, and remembering how important it is, how they help get, as you say, the franchise from point A to point B to point C. Because they don't get to this point, even before the Anunoby trade. They don't get to this point without those guys. So that's the key. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that, man. James Lee, what's going on, James? Did you see Bagley's recent tweet? It's hilarious. Speaking of, when is Katz coming back? For some reason, I can't wait for him to come back on the show. Well, Fred Katz is a fantastic beat reporter covering the New York Knicks. We too can't wait for him to come on the show. As for Ian's recent tweet, I'm furiously trying to look up what the hell the tweet is. Do you have it?
No. Maybe I can lend you a hand.
So here's his most recent tweet. In post-game interview with MSG's Rebecca Harlow, Julius Randle says, New York should be extremely proud of Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. They raised them. They were brought up here, and now they're going to take off, and they're going to flourish for many more years. Is that it?
Maybe.
Am I missing something?
Clarify, James Lee, clarify in the comments. So this way we can.
Maybe it's this one. Hold on. Knicks now up 20 with 5 minutes to play. If nothing else, this is strong evidence for Toronto defense lawyers in the Knicks civil suit. I think that's what he meant.
There you go. This ends up with a happy ending.
Dom Cappuccini. Hi, Dom. OG is the best defensive wing on the Knicks since Sprewell. Man, He it's a different sport, man. I don't know how to compare defenders now to 25 years ago. Sprewell was a badass. He wasn't this. Like, I think it's really cool that I think, oh, man. Oh, Andrew, I may need to call you up for this. Has there been a wing to make all defense for the Knicks? A true wing. Now, granted, for many years, like wing used to just mean you played the 3. Now it's like you're the 2, the 3, or the 4. Has there been a wing to make all defense for the Knicks since David Busher?
I don't think so.
I can't remember any, and if I'm forgetting someone obvious, that's a terrible job by me. But I think it's kind of cool and fitting and appropriate that OG Anunoby may make the first all-defense team as a Knick wing since arguably the greatest defensive wing in the history of the sport, or one of the top 2 or 3. And if you think that I am being hyperbolic about Dave the Busher, I want you to go look up how many times he played once they introduced the concept of an all-defense team and did not make first-team all-defense. Give you one guess at the number. It ain't big. And also how big a voting share he got when they voted for these things. Because even though Defensive Player of the Year was not around when Dave the Busher was around, if it was, he probably, based on all-defense voting, he probably would have got a couple of them. Anyway.
Do you want the list of Knicks to make first-team all-defense?
I could probably guess it.
Sure. Go ahead. There is another wing.
So Chandler's the last one.
Tyson Chandler made it once.
Ewing had to make first team at some point.
Patrick Ewing never made it. Made
second team then only?
Second team 3 different times. Happens when you play in an era with Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon and Dikembe Mutombo.
And David Robinson.
Don't forget about him. Making my way through the list of centers.
Did Oakley never made first team all defense? Did he make
first team all defense? Charles Oakley made one second team and one first team.
What year did he make first team? Was it 93, 94?
I'll look it up, but this site only just says how many people have made it, but not the actual year.
Yeah, but see, that's why I made the comment I did before. I don't consider Charles Oakley a wing.
I don't either. That's not the wing I'm talking about.
There's another wing?
Yes.
I mean, Michael Ray Richardson made
it.
He's a guard.
That doesn't count. He's 6'5".
He's a big guard, but he's a guard. He led the league in assists. He's a point guard.
Because they didn't have cleaning the glass back then, I'm calling him a wing.
I remembered Michael Ray Richardson made all defense. Give me more credit than that.
Okay, good job. He made it twice.
He led the league in steals a few times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Walt Clyde Frazier made it 7 times. Dave DeBusschere made it 6 times. And Willis Reed made it once.
Yeah. I mean, Wilton. To think the Knicks for like a solid 6-7 years had maybe 2 of the 10 greatest non-center defenders in the history of the sport on the floor at the same time. That's kind of absurd.
Yep. And John Starks made a second team once.
Did he really?
Yes.
I forgot that.
Let me look up the year, but John Starks made an all-defense second team once.
Man, that's wild.
All-defense voting shares.
I forgot that.
Yep, 92-93. So.
I hope OG makes it this year.
I am pretty confident he's a first-team All-NBA lock.
For all-defense lock.
Yes. What I say, All-NBA, yes, all-defense lock.
Well, it's positionless, though.
Yes, and he went to the Knicks, and they have the second best defense in the league.
I know.
He's also playing for the Knicks.
He's playing for the Knicks. He's playing 40 minutes a game for the Knicks.
Bingo. The only way he's not going to make it is if the minutes told leads to an injury, which I don't think it will.
I mean, as of right now, he's a good bet to make it.
Very much so.
All right. Thanks, Dom, for sending us down that rabbit hole. Daron Visual Variant. What's going on, man? Hey, not drop buckets, but he may not drop buckets, but I love OG on this team. What do you think is fair value to pay him as a most valuable role player this offseason? I'll lean on Fred again for this one. I thought Fred nailed it when he was talking about it, and actually I think it was Zach Lowe and Kevin Pelton, I think, talked about this. I forget who Zach had on the pod afterwards, but you look at the Jeremy Grant contract, and if you're OG's agent, which is, it happens to be Leon Rose's son, you say that guy got 32 a year for 5 years. I deserve 35 a year for 5 years. Now, I think the Knicks will get creative. I think the Knicks will build in a lot of incentives built around all defense and games played. So, but are they going to be able to get away with, like, there's all like the nuance, right? Is it ascending or is it descending? I don't think they're going to care about an option on last year because he's so young. Is it 32 base with incentives, or is it 34 base with incentives, or 35 base with incentives? It's like, here's the thing, man. Like, unless this is why what the Sixers do over the next 3 weeks is fascinating. Because if the Sixers go out and I don't know who this player would be, because I frankly don't see this player out there for them that they would do this for. But if the Sixers lock themselves into long-term salary to take away their cap space and they essentially do their free agency now, there are other quote-unquote bidders for OG Anunoby, like obviously the Pistons have a ton of room, and a few more teams could get to max cap space. I think if you take Philly off the board, like it and again, like the Knicks are not going to negotiate hard. It's again, who's the agent? What's the agency? But it could be meaningful for OG Anunoby to get a number that starts with a 2, as his contract. 5 years. Like, think about that. What it would mean for him to get something where it's like 5 years, $200 million with incentives. That may sound absurd because that's $40 million a year. Well, what if it's 30? The most you could have in incentives, I think the most you could have in incentives are 15% of your contract could be incentives. So, for argument's sake, let's say it's 34 base. Or even, actually, you could do 32 base ascending with max incentives tied to all defense and games played. That might get you to 200, but it starts out at a 32 base next year. That's the Jeremy Grant number. But there's no universe where his base is going below 32 in year 1. That's not happening. That's your starting point. 32 year 1 base, and then incentives, ascending, descending, all that other shit. 50-year fully guaranteed, all that stuff. Dom Cappuccini, what are you doing? What is that? What? Why am I blanking? WDYT. Knicks go 4-0.
What do you think?
Oh, what do you think? The Knicks go 4-0 on Tuesday versus Brooklyn while going with Precious and Jericho. Listen, I don't give a shit I don't care if Julius Randle plays center. I don't care if they get Taj Gibson back on a 10-day contract. Go beat Brooklyn. And that would be very nice if they could win 4 games in a row versus the New Jersey Nets. Thanks, Tom. Justin Richards. Hey, John. Hope you're doing well. Pretty emotional night, but do you think Brunson has a legit top 5 MVP case? I went through it before. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think games played will help him. I think the Knicks record will be important. I think they may need to be, I don't know if they necessarily need to be top 4. I'll say this. If they're top 3, I don't know how you leave them out of the top 5. That's the automatic. If you get top 3 seed, or you're like 4th, but there's a gap between 4 and 5, something like that, like win 50 games, maybe something like that. Like it's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible. I think it'd be crazy to think that it's not possible. I mean, his numbers right now, he's 12th in the league in scoring. Here are the guys averaging more points per game than Jalen Brunson. Here, you ready? Stephen Curry and Trae Young and Jason Tatum. Tatum, Young, Curry, and Brunson are all within 0.4 points of one another. Brunson is at 26.5. Curry's at 26.7. Trae and Jason Tatum are at 26.9. And then actually throw in Devin Booker, too, 27.0. Brunson can pass those four guys in the next week and get up to 8th in the league in scoring. Now, above 8th, then it's some heavy hitters. You got Donovan, who, man, if we're sitting here, we're going to make a case for Jalen Brunson top 5 MVP. You have to do it for Donovan Mitchell. What he's done without Garland and Mobley, and then De'Aaron Fox. Both of those guys are kind of within shouting distance. They're under 28 a game, and then you got Durant, SGA, Giannis, Luka, Embiid. So, yeah, that's special company. Special company. Dom Cappuccini with another one. Last thoughts. JB is a super duper star. I hope iHeart gets well soon. Glad Hart is back. Okay, Precious. I see you. RJ Quick. Good luck. Make us proud. Good night, all. Good night, Dom. Thank you as always for your generous contributions throughout these post-game shows. They never go unappreciated. I'll use this as an opportunity to shout out Josh Hart, since you shouted out Josh Hart. They need him. Think about the difference between this game and the game that he missed. The Wizards game. Night and day. Like, it's not a coincidence that they won this game by 1 billion points at the end of the day, whereas they barely beat the freaking Wizards. Josh Hart makes a big difference on this team, and that's part of why the discourse surrounding him for most of the season has kind of bothered me. I get it. It's not always going to be pretty. I get it. Like, their offensive possessions. There was one in this game where someone hit him in the corner. It might have been Randall. And he was wide open and didn't shoot it and drove, and I don't think they got anything out of the possession. Like, there's moments like that. They're going to drive you crazy. He does so much that helps his team, and they need him. They absolutely need him. Thank you, Dom. Alex, what's going on, Alex? John, what kind of player comp profile do you think OG could be if he could start figuring out how to finish at the rim? Is Jaylen Brown too crazy? Yes. Jaylen Brown, to borrow a line from I think it was Simmons and Lowe had this on their recent pod they did together. He's a great bad shot taker. And like throughout NBA history, that's always been kind of the definition of like a star. Can you make tough shots? Can you make bad shots? OG's not that. I think OG, I mean, for what it's worth, I think it's not the finishing at the rim. It's the fact that, and again, shout out to our film guys, DJ and Benji, because they've been all over this since they got him. There's a rigidity to OG's movement out there when he has the ball. There's a lack of fluidity to, like, you know, we talk about wiggle, right? That dude doesn't have wiggle. He makes up for it with power, but you got to get from point A to point B to use the power. And he's not like, again, he's not a creator, although I love that mid-ranger he had tonight. That mid-ranger, that was a thing of beauty. I want to see more of that. I don't know what the comp is. He's such a unique player because he's such a special player defensively. I mean, just on offense, there's not a whole lot of guys out there that are his size, that are deadly three-point corner shooters, that have that amount of power at the rim, but just getting from point A to point B. I don't know. I'll think about it some more, Alex. I feel bad. I don't have a great answer for you right now. I don't know. I'll think about that one some more, though. Thank you for the question. Sam Garcia's dad, what's going on? Jew had some greatest things to say about RJ and IQ. He said New York should be proud of them because New York, raised them. It was a really nice post-game spot from him. And I think he, as did a lot of guys on this team, I'm sure, genuinely felt love and appreciation and just friendship, kinship with both of those guys. You saw it when RJ tackled him before the game. Thanks, Roy. Chris Burks, get DeJounte already. Eastern Conference Finals, here we come. I'm going to pass. Not the guy that I want. There's few things that I feel vehemently about in terms of the trade deadline. One of them is that unless they're going out and trading for Devin Booker or someone of that ilk, do not mess with the starting lineup of this team. And you are not getting DeJounte Murray to come here and play off the bench. It is not happening. And apologies to DeJounte Murray. He's not Devin Booker. Jaime Claudio. Oh, you want to get up here, Andrew?
No relation.
Oh, no?
No, but thank you, Jaime. Coincidence. Love the name.
I never realized
appreciate
that.
the
I
contribution.
Like a cousin or something.
No, I see him interact with me on Twitter all the time. Thank you, Jaime.
Oh, well, no relation, Jaime. Jalen Brunson is special. I love my Knicks. KFS is the best. Thank you. No relation, Jaime Claudio. You guys should get together at some point.
Listen, I on the house at this point, and I could introduce you to Hiram Claudio, my dad.
Speaking of getting together, should we shout out the thing?
That's tomorrow. That's the thing.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Okay.
There's a rollout already scheduled and planned. Yeah. There's a thing happening tomorrow. Everybody
pay attention to our social media feed.
Yes, it'll be on social. Then it'll be on the show John's doing with Jeremy tomorrow, which will then air on Monday.
Oh, that's me.
Yes. What time are we recording tomorrow?
Hold on, I know this.
Okay. While he thinks of the thing that's on his calendar, I will let everybody know just to pay attention. If you're not following social media, some fun thing is going to happen very soon, presented by Knicks Film School.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. You did it. I'm proud of you. Now, everybody won't hear this episode that John just announced is happening until Monday at midnight. But we're going to record it tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you, Jaime. Appreciate that. It's incredibly generous, man. Seriously. Thank you so much. Chris Burks with another one. Oh, we had that already. No, I'm not any more sold on the DeJounte than I was a minute ago. Sam Garcia, what's going on? Being on the other end of an IQ skip was not fun. I thought it was a little forced. Can we call a spade here? Can we be real? Can we be real? IQ skips, those are fourth quarter animals, or maybe third quarter, or a big time second quarter, first into second quarter run where the team goes out by a bunch of points. It has to come after a sustained. It's like a tsunami. You can't. A tsunami has to build. The skip was to do the skip right away in the game. I was like, come on, that's a little. That's the lady doth protest too much. Alex, what's going on, man? Very active in the Substack tonight. John, I'm 24 minutes behind. This wasn't a new report on Mitch. I was showing examples of how the Mitch called Mitch's injury ankle inflammation initially. Oh, well, that's a bad job by me. That's a bad job by you and me. I'm blaming you. Sorry. Danny Gardner, what's going on, Danny? I may get annoyed with Randall's play, but he seems like a genuinely good dude, and his post-game comments were a perfect summation of this night. Let's fucking go next. The most unfortunate thing that has happened, and I'm not obviously not blaming you or anybody in particular, because I'm part of the group that I'm about to talk about. The most unfortunate thing that has happened over the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years with Randall is that because of how his poor stretches of basketball look and more importantly feel watching as a fan, it it conflates Julius Randle, the basketball player, with Julius Randle, the person. And we have never once, unless I'm forgetting something, and I don't think I am, we have never gotten any indication that Julius Randle, the person and like the teammate, like locker room guy, is anything less than like everything you could possibly want. But because of, again, how his poor play looks and manifests itself on the court, with like we don't need to go through it, like we know what it looks like. It veers into this very uncomfortable place where it's like the frustration level boils over it, and it becomes personal. It became personal for me, obviously, a couple years ago. But he seems like an awesome guy, and we should always remember that. And I appreciate you taking the time to point that out, Danny.
On top of that, Danny, let's hear from Julius Randle.
More years, so I'm proud of him.
Thanks, Julius.
There's something so poetic about all of this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the meaning that both of the guys had, I mean, it's been discussed a lot, but the thing that I keep coming back to, and this is kind of what I was trying to get at with my silly balance sheet analogy before. This was always the gambit. The day Leon Rose took over, and it was very clear that he was not going to tank for a draft pick or draft picks, and he was going to hire Tom Thibodeau as head coach, who has somewhat of a reputation of like, this is what we're going to do, guys. This was always the gambit. The gambit was always we're like, the end game is like to make acquisitions, however we do it, and use our assets that we have and recoup our asset base, and then use that asset base smartly. That's the key, smartly. And they've always done that, to their credit. So like, this was always probably in the offing. And the way Julius talked about them there, I don't know. It's almost like there was some recognition of that fact. I don't know if he thinks about this stuff that deeply, but yeah, it's tough to not focus on the bigger picture for me, at least when I think about them and this stuff.
I took it more as like they played for the Knicks. They lived for New York, or lived in New York. Like, they lived here. They were part of this, the fabric of the city, and the whole New York raised them. While, it's just it's tough to remember sometimes when we're talking about professional athletes that, like, RJ's 23 years old. You know, he was a teenager 4 years ago.
And he's a fucking senior citizen here. It feels like he's a senior citizen here with the Knicks.
And Quickly is what, the same age, 23, 24. And
yeah,
like, these are kids that got sent to the biggest market in the world and helped establish a culture. And, you know, they grew up right in front of our eyes. And part of growing up is the business aspect of the league. And that's why I think Quickly's been very, very outspoken about how he, like, understands completely. And one thing, like, Benji said this on this impromptu playback we did tonight, but like, the thing the Knicks deserve credit for is, like, at least the last two trades they've made, they've taken care of. Like, they probably could have held on to Obi and sent him, or at least or kept him and or sent him to someplace else to get something better. And they sent him to the exact perfect place to help him grow and flourish. And regardless of how many minutes he's now going to play behind Pascal Siakam, his value is higher headed into restricted free agency.
Sure.
Now Quickly got sent to a team with no point guard that he can go get his extension. RJ literally went home, you know, where he's a national hero. Like, there is a part of this that's like, they helped raise these kids and they took care of them in their next destination. So,
yeah,
you know,
it's been to go from the haphazard. I mean, that's a generous word. Haphazard team building of the 20, and by the way, this is not a criticism of the Melo trade. That includes the Melo trade, but like flying by the seat of your parents, like not really having like conviction with anything that you're doing for 20 years to now to come to this point, and I know you're talking about it more from the personal angle, and I keep going back to like the team building part of it because it's just how I see this shit. But it's just it is staggering the difference from now to what the previous 20 years have been.
It's what I said to Esparhini, where he was like,
Yep.
"So what's it like to root for a rebuilding team?" And it's like, I mean,
that was funny.
when you trust the people in charge, it's
funny.
a little more comforting. You know, hopefully you don't have 2 decades of nothingness where the best case scenario you trade for a superstar and have 150-win season. You know, so next up,
Well, after this I'll do it. Armin, I always get this wrong. Berdnjaj. That was the worst one. Berdnjaj?
Berdnjaj. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Why, as a top 3 or 4 fan base size, does Brunson have such a hard time getting votes? Very disappointing. Also, Drew needs heavy fines on that dancing.
You mean this dancing? There you go.
The funny thing is I adore that song.
I have no idea what song it is.
Are you serious?
John, I didn't know who the Rolling Stones were yesterday.
Dude, it's David Guetta. It's bad.
Okay. I know. Is David Guetta the guy that was on top of the 30 Rock during the pandemic when there's a funny video that went
Yes,
around.
I've
He's
seen
like
the
a
video.
DJ, right?
He's the DJ.
Okay, I don't listen to DJs. I listen to podcasts. I'm fine being shamed for this. I've acknowledged my music illiteracy.
Dude, Guetta's the shit.
Did you hear a single song at my wedding from from this decade?
No, which is why I didn't dance at your wedding.
Well, there may have been other reasons why you didn't dance at my wedding, but the point is, like, my music knowledge stops at like 2015. You know,
if you had played Guetta at your wedding, I would have been all over that shit.
I submitted a playlist that ended when my musical taste stopped. So, anyway, the reason
that song's like probably more than 10 years old.
Okay.
Guetta's the best. All right. Why does Brunson have a hard time getting votes? Because my theory always on this is that New Yorkers are busy people and they have a lot of shit to do.
We have pinned on our chat right now. So if you're watching live, the link to go vote. I also just don't trust the numbers. There's no way that less than 1 million people have voted for Jalen Brunson worldwide. There's just, like, the amount of Knicks fans that exist, there's just no way.
So. All right, now I'll do the Begley thing. This is Begley sent out a tweet. He had a post-game report with Nicky Lattarulo, in which, and thanks to New York Basketball for they do a great job. They aggregate the right way, that Twitter account. So this is Begley. Jordan Clarkson, I'm told teams looking into him say Utah's going to want a lot. There's a shocker. On the Malcolm Brogdon front, I haven't heard anything significant there. And then Bruce Brown, I keep hearing again and again. Man, it's a little scary. It's a little scary. Bruce Brown, he doesn't do it for this team, this Raptors team, and he didn't really do it for Indiana, but he did it for the Nuggets. He was kind of their backup point guard for a while. So, like, I get it from that perspective. I just, like, how many guys can you have on the same basketball team that teams are going to invite, roll out the red carpet to shoot, you know, from deep and feel like it's a win if they do? Yeah. Thanks, Armin. Dom with another one. You're a madman, Dom. In the 24 games, we have dropped from 10th to now 20th and giving up turnovers. I love the flashes of dominance, but does the trade solve the issue? Does anything? We are in need of a we are at a we need to talk moment. I'm not losing my shit about this one. Like, I think they're being sloppy with the ball. 100%. They're being a little careless. With Julius, some of it is indicative of how he processes and how he plays the game. And I think also some of it is like, okay, so you got Dante DiVincenzo in your starting lineup now. Guess what? Quentin Grimes, a lot easier to avoid turnovers when Quentin Grimes is in your starting lineup. You know why? Because Quentin Grimes doesn't put the ball on the floor. Quentin Grimes doesn't do anything. Dante DiVincenzo does more. I'll give you another one. Mitchell Robinson. Now, Mitchell Robinson turned the ball over occasionally when he would get an offensive rebound and he would bring it down and they would swipe at it and the whole thing. But like, that's a dude who did nothing with the ball. Mitchell Robinson does less with the ball when he's in the starting five, especially really when he's out there, than as basically as much as any center in the NBA. Isaiah Hartenstein, guess what? Does stuff with the ball. So DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, the Randall issues that exist. And now you're introducing another piece that you're trying to utilize and like get involved in the whole thing. There's more movement there. You're taking away RJ, who like your offense was used to operating with for years and years. Now you're introducing this piece. There's so many reasons why this offense is giving away the ball more over the last few months. This is going to sound crazy. I think it's healthy. I really do. I think they need to move the ball more. Because guess what? Against playoff defenses, you're not going to beat those defenses unless you move the ball. And they need to be more careful and they need to be better at it. But guess what? What is it? It's January 20th. You got 3 months. You got 3 months to work on this. They could do it. I think it's a process, but it's a necessary process. And they will be better for it. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you, man. Danny with another one. Can they get Burks and Brown without giving up any of their own firsts? So you want to make two different trades. Burks and Brown. Burks, you're not trading first. Brown, I mean, if you're not trading a first for Brown, well, their own first, they're not giving up an unprotected first. If anything, they'll give up their first in this year's draft, but who cares? Doesn't matter because it's this year, and then they'll whatever protections will exist on the pick. I don't even know if they would need to protect the pick, but like to the extent that any protections would exist, they would extinguish after this year. So you're not carrying forward your obligations. So yeah, you can get both those guys. I don't both. Yeah, probably using protected picks and Grimes and whatever. Probably. I don't know if do we need both those guys? We'll see. Thanks, Danny. Bernard Richardson, can you name the last bad trade made by this front office?
I have one nominee.
The Cam
trade. Thinking of the same one. Oh, I'm not even thinking that. The Cam trade was like a worthy gamble. They traded an 11th man and like a protected first that became nothing.
So I will never blame them for the Cam trade. The original sin was trading the pick for the pick that became Cam because they didn't want the pick. That's why they gave up the pick because it was a shitty pick because the Hornets suck and that's going to convert to 2 seconds. So they're like, why not? Let's give it up for Cam. And the Hawks were all too happy to do that because they wanted nothing to do with Cam Reddish either. But sorry, to the original pick, which is I forget if it was the 19th or the 21st, one of those two picks, they boxed themselves into the corner because that entire draft cycle, they were trying to package those to move up for Duarte. They never got to make that trade. And so they got there on draft night and they were standing there with their Grady Dicks in their hands. And they're like, oh shit, we got to get rid of one of these. You like that?
That was great. That was Grady. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey. And they're like, shit, we got to get something for this because we can't roster this many rookies. Because they also had the Deuce. Well, it was one pick that became 2 with Rokas and Deuce. Anyway, they're like, we can't roster this many young players, so they got the best thing they could get, and it wasn't that great of an asset. So that's the original sin. Is it a bad trade? Whatever. What are you thinking of?
Jalen Williams. It's not even like that's the the trade, but because they didn't
That's-
trade the pick that became Jalen Williams, they traded the pick for 3 protected firsts that they thought they'd be able to use for Donovan Mitchell instead of just taking Jalen Williams.
On its face, the value was good there.
Okay. That's the only candidate I have. I understood it, and then it led to opening up cap space for DEPM monster Isaiah Hartenstein and obviously Jalen Brunson. But, if you're looking for a bad trade, it's that. And the good has so far outweighed the bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. Nelson Joseph, top 5 defense by year end. Let's go. You might get there at this rate. I mean, they're not how far behind are they?
They're 7th.
Yes, they're 7th, but they're in terms of points per 100 possessions. Man, they're 7th in defense. They were 19th like 2 weeks ago. They're 112.5. 5th is 111.5. That's Orlando. I mean, shit, at this rate, they could be. I mean, they could be a top 3 defense within a month. That's not crazy. Thanks, Nelson. Shooting regression. The opponent's shooting luck has been there. Kudos to Benji for finding that. Nick Gay, why does Barnes look like a secondary to RJ? I don't think tonight was indicative of a typical Scotty Barnes game. I think he played poorly. I think the reason you're coming away with that is because they pushed the pace so much, and RJ was the beneficiary of that. But I think to your point, Barnes is not a typical shot creator. He tried that hook shot there at one point, that didn't go well. And there's definitely a question about okay, to the point that was brought up before. All right, you're going to be the league's best number 2 or one of the league's best number 2s. How are you creating offense? I feel like the comp that's always been there is supercharged Draymond, better offensive Draymond. But even that falls a little flat for me because Draymond is one of the, forget best passers at his position. He's one of the best passers in the league. And I don't think Barnes is that. So it's like a different Draymond, but can his particular mix of skills get to the point in terms of impact that Draymond has, to say nothing of potentially superseding it? And in that conversation, you have to recognize that Draymond was drafted into his personal basketball nirvana. You could go through every player in NBA history, and I'm not sure you would find a better pairing for Draymond than Steph Curry. Is Scotty Barnes going to get that lucky? Is quickly going to be his Curry or something? I don't know if he's going to get that fortunate, but I think there's a real set of skills and abilities there that could be really good. So we'll see. Imad Khalil, what's going on, Imad? Julius Randle playing his best all-around ball. The turnovers will come down, and the offense really will hum. Add a backup point guard, and we could beat anyone in the East. I agree. I think they can beat anyone in the East. Totally. Do I think they will beat anyone in the East in the 7-game series? That's a different question, but I mean, I just have so much respect for Boston and the way they do things, and the fact that they, to use the analogy that I used before in a different context, Boston is like a tsunami. When they are going, when they're humming, you could be playing pretty well, and you look up and you'll be down by 20 because of how much they could throw at you on both ends of the floor. Now, all that being said, if you're in a close game with them in the last 5 minutes, you probably like your chances because that team does not. There's something missing there, which is why I'd love to see that series. I would. Thanks, Amon. Jesus Christ. John Shin, we're giving Jalen Brunson's MVP trophy to you tonight. Thank you so much. And for the generous contribution. Okay, here we go. Knicks Fan TV coming in peace and also with a lot of respect for your work. Was at the Magic Knicks game and someone mentioned that KFS does not like Josh Hart. And I said, Macri doesn't like Josh? What's the beef, if any? I love my Knicks, but also love your stat-focused analysis. I don't know who gave you that information, but that is faulty.
Could not be further from the opposite. Not only does Macri love Josh Hart, but Tom Thibodeau loves Josh Hart, and therefore John Macri loves Josh Hart even more. It's very much the equation of if X, then Y. Okay.
But
shout out to you, John Shin, who clarified in the comments. This is a KFTV fan, which I mean, we're KFTV fans. They're KFS fans. Awesome. We are very mutual. Alex and I text all the time about the Jets and like work stuff. And CP, I'm not gonna dox him, but like lives like 5 minutes from where my wife works. So we were talking about getting coffee one day that I go out there.
Here's the thing about Josh Hart. He does things that help you win basketball games. And I think it's a weird, it's a version of the Randall thing in the sense that when he's doing something that you watch and you're like, well, that's not helping us win, it's often very glaring. And certain people will allow that to overtake their like the appreciation for all the other stuff that he does oftentimes, which does not to say nothing of it. It definitely doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but like you don't even notice a lot of the stuff. Like Josh Hart's going to make your team better. Like, is it fair to say he's better probably playing 24 minutes a night than 30? Yeah, it's fair to say, but like that dude's awesome. And I'm so happy they have him. And I think sometimes we get a little bit too bogged down in like, oh, he's not a floor spacer, and thus we don't have X amount of floor spacers on the floor, and thus we will not be able to be successful on the offensive end. Like, I think that stuff kind of gets overblown sometimes. I think you could make it work to some extent. I agree because I see Andrew rolling his eyes in the Miami.
I didn't roll my eyes. I just but in the
Miami series,
he's locked in at 30 is my only ever been my issue. When he's playing poorly, you're allowed to play other people that space the floor.
But the Miami series was not a good series, right?
Bingo.
And he's an imperfect player, but like the Knicks are an imperfect team, and they've been an imperfect team since even now they're a somewhat imperfect team. So I think to diminish Josh Hart, and the other part, if I'm being frank, is like for as long as Tom Thibodeau was here, any player who is like clearly a Tibbs guy that isn't like doesn't have universal 100% approval is always going to catch shit from the fan base because there's just a massive segment of the fan base that just.
That's the reason, which is why if they trade for Bruce Brown, you're going to defend him the same way.
Yeah, but
Bruce Brown would do great things here too. You know,
Bruce Brown's another awesome basketball player. My hesitation with Bruce Brown is like, again, there comes a saturation point with how many of these guys you can quote unquote make it work with. Do I think that I'll just say this. If they swap out Quentin Grimes for Bruce Brown tomorrow, do I think they're a better basketball team? Yes, I do. I'm going to say that. And it's not a knock on Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes, like Julia said about Quickly and Archer, Quentin Grimes has a bright future ahead of him. Are they better tomorrow if they get Bruce Brown? Yes, they are. It won't change the fact that there will be some offensive possessions with both Bruce Brown and Josh Hart on the floor where Knicks fans will be pulling their hair out and blaming the two of them and Tibbs. But
then there will also be a true center because he won't go small and play Julius or Anunoby at the 5. And if those two are on the floor and it's like Deuce is your floor spacer. And I like what we've seen since the trade, but I'm not 100% sure that he's your floor spacer.
Can I say something though? Well, I think if they got Bruce Brown,
Or you think they'd go to an 8-man rotation? Deuce would need to play. He has earned in that sense. If Grimes goes and you're only bringing in one rotation player, Deuce needs to play. He becomes an 8 to 12-minute player, which is what he's kind of been. But
he becomes a 12-minute player. Oh, Jesus Christ! How many
minutes tonight? Deuce McBride. Well, Deuce had a rough night, so tonight might be the night to.
No, but like it's he has good nights, he's bad nights. He's a ninth man. You know, my point is 8 to 12 minutes rotation player during the regular season.
13 tonight.
Okay, playoffs, it absolutely becomes an 8-man rotation. That's
8-man rotation. Yeah,
but here's the thing: if you bring in Brown and you essentially make Brown the point guard when Brunson's off the floor, which you can do. Fucking Denver did it. Now, granted, Denver has some other talent too, but Denver did it and they won the championship. That's a switch everything defense. If you have Bruce Brown running point, I'm not saying you couldn't do this with Deuce too. I think with Deuce is more of a minutes thing, but just hear me out. If it's Brown running your backup point and it's Hart, and I mean it doesn't really matter what center is, but I guess it would be let's say it's Achua for the time being, or even if it's whatever, whoever. Like and Anunoby, and then I guess it'd probably be Randall in those minutes. Yeah, it'd be Randall because Brunson would be off the floor.
Okay.
If Brown's running your point, then Brunson's off the floor, so Randall's on the floor. But that's a switch everything defense. Achua, Randall, OG, Brown, Hart, true switch everything. So I like that. On offense,
I hate it.
Do you though?
You have 4 guys on the floor that can't shoot. They're just gonna go zone, and then you're gonna have to hope that you can win those minutes 5-4. That's what we've been watching lately. Now, Randall with the bench has been awful because there's no true point guard, which is why I maintain you can't get Bruce Brown if you're not also bringing in a point guard.
You got ball movers there. You got connectors there. You got
John, but moving it around the perimeter
there.
Because nobody can penetrate. Nobody could create.
Randall could create an advantage.
And how does it look so far? He's passing out to who? Because when he creates advantages, it's kickouts. And you're kicking it out to Josh Hart, who's nearing 30% from 3. Bruce Brown is nearing 30% from 3. Achua or Hartenstein, who aren't 3-point shooters. And Deuce McBride, who has a 4-game sample size, basically, of being an elite 3-point shooter. 14-game sample size, if you want to use what the last 14 games have been. You need someone that can space the floor to balance it out, especially because, like, Josh Hart in transition, I'm all for it, and he can be the Bruce Brown, which is why they need to go get a point guard. Like, if you're gonna do that, just let Josh Hart be Bruce Brown. Man, I'm not saying the defense will be elite, by the way. You're right.
Yeah.
But what we saw in the last 2 Tom Thibodeau playoffs is he knows how to coach playoff defense.
Yeah.
He's going to need talent to get him off.
Shooting.
He had shooting in the last couple postseasons.
No, you're right. It's talent plus
it's 5 talent. Guys that are shooting 40% from 3 2 postseasons ago. How'd that go? He knows how to coach playoff defense. The guy won a championship in Boston because he was the defensive coordinator of that team.
Can I sell you on a 50% offensive rebound rate with that lineup?
There could be plenty of offensive rebounds, John. Because they're not getting anything. Oh my gosh, the Knicks have 27 offensive rebounds, and they have not converted on this possession.
Look, I talk myself into Bruce Brown. I'm being straight.
I can tell.
Yeah.
And want to know why you talked yourself into Bruce Brown? Because Tom Thibodeau talked himself into Bruce Brown.
Oh, we've got off the road. What time is it? It's 12:15 a.m.
Yeah.
How many people are watching this still?
Still 800 people watching.
Jesus Christ. What are you guys doing? Go out and get a fucking drink.
No, stay here and watch us. We enjoy the audience and the party. This is fun. We're with 800 of our best friends, John.
God. Anyway.
Drew in here.
Yeah. Thank you, John. And shout out to Knicks Fan TV and shout out to CP. Does amazing stuff there. He's revolutionized this industry. It made an industry.
He had a very funny video tonight. He was at the game, and he some Raptors fans were leaving early behind him because they were getting blown out. And he put the caption up of them. He put a video of them leaving, and he said, "Someone get him some Tim Hortons, eh?" It's just like, oh wow, that's like very polite shit talk. Well done,
Man.
CP. Yeah,
I would love a donut right now.
Tim Hortons coffee was more my favorite. Yeah.
I just feel like a donut. Dom Cappuccini, welcome back, Robert. We missed you. Hashtag 53 wins. Hey, it's right fucking there. LOL. Let's go Knicks. Are they not on exactly a 53 win pace right now? I think they might be. I'll do the quick calculation. Next up. Thank you, Dom. Down with another KFS forever. Night all. See you Tuesday, unless of course there's an emergency live stream. I don't think we're getting an emergency live stream before then. I'm just throwing it out there. Part of me hopes I'm wrong because I wouldn't mind a trade before that point in time, but yeah.
I will fight you if there's an emergency live stream tomorrow. We have plans.
Why?
Not we have plans,
okay.
but we have a pod. We're doing an announcement in the morning. There'll be a thing that we're announcing in the morning.
Okay.
And then I promised my wife a Sunday.
Good.
Okay.
They're on a 50 win. They're on a 50 win pace right now, by the way.
Well, yeah, they were 25 and 16. No, they were 24 and 17, right?
Yeah, that's
41 games. Now they're on a 50 win pace. Yes.
It's actually technically a 49.6 win pace, but anyway.
Dork.
Thanks, Dom. I don't think there's going to be a emergency live stream. Sam Garcia's dad. What's up, Ray? Again, as far as trades go, I don't want to see Grimes or unprotected first going out for a bench player. Glad to see Robert Cross back. We're all glad to see Robert Cross back. I'm sure Robert Cross is glad to hear the appreciation that he is back. Let me just, again, they're not trading future unprotected firsts. That is not going to happen. It's I don't know what else to say. It's not going to happen. Is there a chance they trade their first this year? Sure. They don't give a shit because once you get, they're not making any earth-shattering trade before draft night. And once you get past draft night, if you've traded your first-round pick this year, any Stepien influence goes away, and you could once again trade 4 future firsts and 3 future swaps. That's all they care about doing. They will not put that at jeopardy unless Joel Embiid becomes available on the trade market in the next 19 days, and I don't think that's happening. So you don't have to worry about that. As far as like trading Grimes for a bench player, like I've been thinking a lot about a tweet that DJ had a few days ago, like after the Grimes news from Fred Katz broke, which is like, you should not trade this player for anything less than a star. And I'm looking forward to talking to DJ more about that because I don't know. I wonder what Grimes is at this point. I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation.
Next KFS X's and O's. We'll lead with that. Can you clarify said tweet, DJ?
But I don't even need him to. I've said
expand
the same thing. Yeah,
like, you know.
Yeah, but I would like to talk more about it because I think it's an interesting point of conversation. Imad Khalil, what's going on, Imad? Julius Randle playing. Oh, we had this already.
We did say this. Okay, I didn't know if I unstarted too soon. We have 2 more.
Okay, here we go. Joseph J, nice win, but end of the third was bad. Yes, it was very bad. Deuce, man. We probably didn't honor how bad that was.
I literally dribbled the ball off his foot and fell out of bounds. And then they started the fourth. They ran a play for him, and he got to the rim and just missed. And then Jalen Brunson went to the scorer's table.
Oh, it was so bad.
Yeah,
it was a great look. I mean, it was a good job by him. Like hitting the hole. Yeah. Anyway, thoughts with Deuce playing the 2 and Grimes running point guard for a couple minutes. I mean, it's deck chairs on the Titanic, man. I know Grimes is the point guard at Kansas, and he had to transfer from that school because it went so poorly. This team does not have a backup point guard. Actually, well, Malachi Flynn, but they don't seem to.
Evil Dante's not a rotation player for a good team.
Yeah, I'm not going to push back on that.
Yeah, respect. Like, I know apparently I went too hard on both Malachi and Precious, and I'll take a step back on the Precious Achua slander from the pregame show, but they're not rotation players. They weren't rotation players in In Toronto, they were barely rotation players.
But Precious has always showed serious flashes, very real
Flashes.
flashes.
Yeah, flashes.
But if you show enough flashes, you could be a rotation player. Which we're going to find out pretty soon. Thanks, Joseph. El Coriano 11. What do you think the record would be in the last 11 games if another team acquired OG? 6-5 question mark. Man, I have no idea.
So do they beat Minnesota?
Are we assuming they still have RJ and Quickly?
Yes, that's what he's saying. They didn't make the trade.
It's 12-22.
It's the last question. Do they beat Minnesota?
I can't do that. I don't know. This is me just throwing darts, blindfolded.
I'll say yes. Do they beat Chicago?
Yes.
I'll say yes. Do they beat Philly? By more, actually. I'll say yes. Do they beat Washington?
Wait, hold on. But just wait. This is why this is El Coriano. I love the question. This is why I can't answer it. They so fundamentally altered the fabric of this team that to even contemplate what would the Philly game have been when they won by 38 points. I can't do that because you know why? That game was how many point lead at after the third quarter or late in the third quarter, early in the fourth? It was like a 10-point game.
Mm-hmm.
So can I just answer this in my own way? Which I know you hate when I do this because it's like people like definitive numbers and things like rankings and all that bullshit.
Go right ahead. Be you.
You sure?
Yeah, well, within reason.
Yeah. I think it was heading in a bad place. And I think the reason it was heading in a bad place is I think defensively they had no identity. They had no backbone. They had no identity. And that's going to sound if you connect the dots, that's going to sound like I'm taking a shot at RJ because they gave away 2 players in the trade, one of whom was a good defensive player, and Emmanuel Quickly, a 6'3", 100 and whatever pound defensive player, but a good defensive player. It's not a shot at RJ. It's a compliment to OG Anunoby. But they were veering so far off the rails defensively that I still go back to that Orlando game. And it's not that they gave up a ton of points in that Orlando game. But Orlando, who is not a good offensive team, their starting lineup with all kinds of guys missing was getting whatever they wanted against the Knicks defense that night. And it was staggering. And I'm like, where is this? How could this get better? Especially because Hartenstein, who okay, you blame him because Mitch was out and now it's Hartenstein. He's been good. And so it wasn't that. So it was just how are we doing this? And then offensively, RJ had gotten to such a place where it was getting kind of toxic. Right? Am I wrong about that?
He was really bad over the last few games. He was actually good in the Orlando game, which is why Tibbs went small in the fourth quarter.
He was. And then speaking of toxic, the fucking Emmanuel Quickly minutes thing was threatening to completely torpedo everything about this team. And Fred, I could say this because he said it on our pod, right? In terms of the locker room and the minutes issue, he talked about this.
He said this in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was an issue. The minutes thing was an issue. There was I forget what word. I don't want to put words in Fred's mouth, but it was not a wonderful, happy rainbows and gumdrops situation in terms of minutes, points, usage, all that shit. So this was not headed in a good direction. And they made this trade, and now is it perfect? No. Do they have needs? Yes. But this team rewrited itself with this trade in a lot of different ways. So frankly, I don't want to think about what they'd be if they didn't make this trade. And I'll leave it at that.
So El Coriano, I agree with you. They would not have as many wins as they would have had they not made this trade. In fact, I don't know if they're over 500 during the stretch if they don't make this trade. However, to John's point, we're talking about a team that has weaknesses, that has some flaws, that has ways to improve, and they're 9-2, and the 2 losses, they're like 2 rebounds away from those being wins. You
Didn't
know,
Tibbs say that recently?
he said like the rebound, like it's those 2 games are rebound away, and in both of those games there was a possession at the end of the game where 3 chances were had by the other team to get a rebound to give the team the lead. Now the Orlando game I'm a little less like upset by because
The
they didn't have
Dallas
Jalen.
game. It's the
They
Dallas
didn't,
game.
the Dallas game, they had him on the ropes, and I legitimately thought the Knicks were gonna take the lead at a certain point.
They fucked around for 3 quarters.
Yeah,
In
and
that
then
Dallas
when they decided to turn it on, they got it down to a 1-point game, and it was a rebound. I thought they were gonna take the lead, and then like they would have gotten another stop, and then it would have expanded the lead, and that would have been a win. They scored 94 points against Orlando. It was so difficult to score for them, especially with a hobbled Randall, you know, and the whatever version of Josh Hart we had. So I'm not as frustrated by it, but those are the 2 where like it's 2 losses since the trade. And there's like these margins that could have made him wins.
On the season, I said this to somebody the other day. If the 4 most frustrating losses is Orlando, Dallas, Utah, and
OKC.
Not OKC is
Okay.
awesome. Phoenix, the Booker shot because Durant and Beal missed that game. Like, or the Orlando loss is a distant 4th for me. It's the other 3, and like given how Utah's played recently, and given the fact that like again we don't want to think about it in this way, but the fact that Kyrie had an all-time Kyrie game in the Dallas game, like we can't just like brush that under the rug. That happened. That was a thing. To say nothing of Timmy, who was great too. So like, have they had a horrible loss this year? And then Devin Booker, Devin Booker's a pretty good basketball player. You know, it goes back to the theme of like they are solid, and to the extent that they were going from solid to something a little unsturdy, they re-solidified themselves with this trade. Not perfect, but I mean, it's been a long time since I've been this excited for a trade deadline. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I feel a little bit bad that I'm saying that, and I like Quentin Grimes, but
they're very close. Like I can't. Like I'd be upset with a Quentin Grimes trade. I also thought I'd be upset with the Emmanuel Quickley trade, and it changed the trajectory of the franchise. So, you know,
we'll see what happens. All right.
Don't dump him for like a pick is my only thing. Don't look at it as just I don't think they will. I'm just saying at the front, like I want to like the Quentin Grimes trade if it happens.
I think here's what I'll say. I think when it happens, I do think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be for a player that like you're not getting OG Anunoby in this trade. It's going to be a lesser player. But I think it'll be someone that you could feel good about playing 20 minutes in a playoff game.
And we'll see if that puts them in a conference final.
It's wild that we're having this conversation. Team's good. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This was fun. This was great. This was a journey. Appreciate you all being here with me and Andrew for it. Please like the video if you haven't already done so. Push the thumbs up there and subscribe to the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. I think we're getting close to like 15,000 YouTube subscribers, right?
14.2. So if you want to be part of the 800 that get us to 15,000, we'd love for you to come aboard.
Come on down. If you're listening to this on the podcast version tomorrow or Monday or whatever, and you're like, I'm not subscribed to the Knicks Film School YouTube channel because I don't go on YouTube. You know what? I don't care that you don't go on YouTube. Come over to YouTube and just subscribe to the channel because that'd be doing us a solid.
Yes.
And then
please
obviously, yes. What's going through my mind right now?
Oh, the same thing.
All right, that's it. Rate, subscribe, review, all the things. Shout out to all Pale Dicks tonight. And Grady Dick.
Once again, a happy ending.
We're going back to this.